Good morning to all of you. I don't need to ask you to take your seats because there you are. Look around. We're all seated and together. So welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia. Our minister is Stephen Robinson, who we are very happy to have back after a COVID catch. Woo! We're so happy to get him back. I'm Rebecca Drennan. I'm going to be your leader today. Our services are streamed on YouTube and Zoom, so no matter how you choose to join us, you're always welcome. We encourage everyone to read the announcements. You see there's separate announcements in your order of service. And we provide weekly email updates every Thursday. And don't forget to check our website, and that is at uucolumbia.org. For those of you who are visiting and aren't on our email list of announcements, if you just see somewhere close by, there's going to be a visitor's card, and you can simply put, if you just want to put your name and your email address, and then check only want to see emails, you could do it. Of course, we're welcoming you to fill it out all the way if you'd like, but just wanted you to know that it's easy to keep track of what's happening here. So I'm going to ask you to silence all of your devices. And we want to welcome children, any young children. I know there are already some in the nursery. And today, children are going to be dismissed for a special music program after the story for all ages. We offer childcare for infants and children 3 to 5. For childcare to continue, we need more volunteers. So it is something that everyone that's volunteered there said, this was fun, it's wonderful. And very thoughtfully, they put a TV monitor in the nursery so you don't even have to miss the sermons. So we encourage you to volunteer there and also pass the word that the paid positions are still available. So if you're curious, ask somebody, Bethany Sterlassi or Jonathan White, take care of that. And now I'm going to ask you to, after silencing your devices, to begin to center yourselves for today's service and listen to the prelude.
This morning's prelude will feature Karen Peters on viola, and we'll be playing Kol Nidre by Max Bruch. The subtitle for this piece is Adagio on Hebrew Melodies. And the melody that you're going to be hearing is a setting of the incantation that is sung and opens the Jewish service of Yom Kippur.
We thank you, Anna and Karen. Yeah, that was such moving music for all of us, I think. I'm going to ask you at this point to please stand and join me in that congregational covenant. It's written in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant with one another. Thank you. You may be seated. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. Our community is based on deeds, not creeds. We're a covenantal religion, which means we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other the same with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. We side with love, embracing and welcoming all people. Your questions and comments are always welcome by our board members and committee chairs. Our board members may be recognized. They have green, if they're wearing the green name tags, you'll see them. So we'd like to recognize at this point anybody who is here maybe for a first time or maybe second time. Any visitors today? Shy visitors. Here's one, yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Flournoy, and I live in Columbia. Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll get to hear from Mark in a few minutes.
Yeah. And so, as I said before, if you want to know more about us, find one of those visitor cards to get on the email list. We encourage everyone here to wear name tags so that we can get to know each other better. And at this time, we take just a few minutes. It's really hard to corral it, but a few minutes to say hello and speak to others that are here. So I'll give you that time. Go for it. All right, I'm going to ask you to come back to your seats. And some of these conversations can happen after the service in the social hall. All right, people in the back. Thank you. It's a hard group to corral. It's crazy. Oh, lots of love. It's really wonderful. Oh dear. Now we're going to dig a little deeper into the sacredness of this morning, and we begin by lighting our chalice. And today we are so fortunate to have Amelia and Barry Gunning, and I'm going to ask them to come forward and to tell us a little bit about them. I asked them if they wanted to bring Leo. You've probably seen him. He's 3, is that right? 2, it seems like 3. He just got his first haircut, right? Yeah, please share a little bit.
Okay, so we both kind of wrote a little thing down. I'm not good at like impromptu stuff. So I started attending the UUCC on and off in mid-2020 at the height of the pandemic. Everything was virtual, and I was lonely at home like most of us were, and desperate for community. Our first time attending in person was when I was about 8 months pregnant with Leo on the first day of in-person services in 2021. As a couple, we're both recovered Catholics, an atheist, recovering, yes, an atheist and a spiritual lady who changes her beliefs every 5 seconds. As parents, we knew we were in need of a community for our child to grow and thrive in, a community where he could be his fully authentic self and discover what he believed in on his own terms. The UUC is just that, and I am grateful for all the faces and personalities we've met in these last few years, and I'm excited to see how Leo progresses as he makes family and friends here as well.
Forgive the phone, I'm coming from a slightly different angle. I do speak impromptu, but I don't want to keep you too long, so this will keep it short. But as Amelia said, I'm the Catholic turned atheist of the family. I've spent a lot of my adult life kind of feeling skeptical about religion, basically church, the people who are into religion, very skeptical about that. But I'd like to think I'm becoming a lot more tolerant about that, especially if I'm getting that respect back. I wasn't always like that. But that brings me to why I am here. The UUCC has been kind of a revelation to me. A community of people who actually practice togetherness and community, regardless of religious or spiritual beliefs, and there's no hidden agendas or attempts to convert me. I didn't think I could ever find something like that. I've not been searching for it, but now that I've found this, it has been a revelation. So I still have that skepticism about mass worship, kind of rituals. It's strange I'm doing this because rituals are not my thing, and other elements regarding church. But the more I attend this church and the more I get to know the people that make up the community, the more I really appreciate the reasons why we attend. So attending the church started off as me showing respect and support to my wife, who did need that sense of belonging. But it has really developed into a genuine appreciation for the members of the community. And despite my ever-present skepticism about the rituals, I'm actually really pleased and proud that we've been invited up here to light the chalice today. And we'll do so with thanks and appreciation to Reverend Stephen, to the board, the committee, and the wider UU committee, the UU community, because we're very grateful about the way that you've helped us integrate into this community. And that's why we're lighting it today. We're very grateful for this, and we hope to be part of this community for a lot of years to come. So we want to thank you all.
Lovely.
Thank
Thank you. Spirit of light and life, come unto us. Thank you.
I invite you to remain seated for this morning's opening hymn. It's number 1037 in the Teal hymnal, and it's structured a little bit differently. You're going to hear a line of text, and then there will be a sung response. I'm going to demonstrate that line. And this opening hymn, We Begin Again in Love, focuses on this morning's attention to the idea, feeling, and act of forgiveness. You'll sing each time in response, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. And the sound of the melody is this. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. each time we have struck out in anger witut just cause. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
So beautiful to have the hard work of forgiveness put to music. Our opening words today come from Maya Angelou, and she writes, "I don't know if I continue even today always liking myself, but what I learned to do many years ago was to forgive myself. It is very important for every human being to forgive herself or himself, because if you live, you will make mistakes. It is inevitable. But once you do, and you see the mistake, then you forgive yourself and say, well, if I had known better, I'd done better. So you say to yourself, I'm sorry. If we all hold on to the mistake, we cannot see our own glory in the mirror, because we have the mistake between our faces and the mirror. We can't see what we're capable of being. You can't ask for forgiveness of others, but in the end, the real forgiveness is of one's own self. The real difficulty is to overcome how you think about yourself. If we don't have that, we will never grow, we will never learn, and sure as hell, we should never teach." At this point, I invite any of our younger children and youth to come down for our story for all ages. Good morning. Brave soul. How's everybody today? Very good. I've got a little book I want to share with you, and then maybe we can talk about it for a second. But this book is called Words Are Not for Hurting. Can you see that? All right. It says, you know lots of words. Who listens when you talk? Who listens when you talk? Friends, family, sometimes family, right? Germs on your body, they definitely do. your family, your friends, your teachers, and many people. And then you can see down there it says, and pets too. They listen. How do you use your words? You say your name, or you ask for help. You can tell a story, or you can sing a song. Oh, that's great stuff. Some of your words are loud. Can you give me some loud words? Can you do a wee? Wee! All right, perfect. Is that all? Nobody else has got a good wee? Wee.
What?
What? All right. And some of your words are soft. So can you whisper? Whisper. Oh, good whispering. Some of your words are kind. You say, I love you, but you know what? Sometimes your words are not. Go away. I don't like you. You make me sad. But it's good to remember that words are not for hurting, right? And here's our emphasis for today. What do hurtful words do? They hurt our ears. They hurt our feelings. And here's something that you can do instead. This is good for our adults too. Think before you speak. Yes, you hear them out there going, yes, they know that too. And keep hurtful words to yourself. But very important, if the words come out before you can stop them, hurtful words, what do? I bet you know what to do before it. Cry, apologize. Anybody else got a guess? Apologize and be mad, and here they are. 2 words that need to be said.
Or happy words.
Yep, so you could say some happy words, right?
And you can say, can I please have something?
That's nice, very nice. And if you say something hurtful, you can say,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. And those 2 little words can be a big help because you can say, I know I messed up. I'm sorry. And then if someone says, I'm sorry, and you feel like they're really sorry for what they've said and they want to be friends again, what can you say? I forgive you, right? Or, are you okay? Very important. Like, are we okay? Are you okay? Am I okay?
You help them up. You help them.
That's right. You help them up. Absolutely. Absolutely. So words can be hurtful, but we can also use those words to be really helpful. I don't know if you were paying attention when we were just singing the song, but we repeated that line over and over again. Remember what we said?
We forgive ourselves and each other. And we share.
That's right. We forgive ourselves and each other. And then once we do that, we can begin again in sharing and in love. That's absolutely right. So I bet we can sing that one more time, couldn't we, Anna? Does that be too? All right, here we go. You ready? Want to sing it one more time? We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. All right. I'm going to invite you to head out. Miss Anna's got a full afternoon of some fun music for you this morning. So thank you for being here. At this point, Anna's going to head out of our service, and we have a great music time planned for our children and our youth this morning. I invite us, for those who are left here, and if the adults kind of look at the rest of the service and you think, I'd kind of rather go back there with the kids and sing. Looking at the sermon, like, I might fall asleep during that, and Stephen's just getting back. He's not 100%. There's a good chance he might fall asleep during the sermon. I'll just head out there. But for those who are left, we create a time in our service for sharing our candles of community, opportunities for us to celebrate with each other and share those joys that are so meaningful, but also a chance to grieve together, to be concerned together, and share those things that are deep on our hearts. I invite you at this time, if you were going to share a candle, to come forward and do that briefly and place your candle here.
This is a candle of joy for 2 anniversaries that either have occurred or will occur in September. This is September. The first one occurred sometime in September of 1973, when I signed the book to become a member of this congregation. Mary had already done it some weeks earlier because while I was still away on a research trip in Pakistan. But so we have been members of this congregation for 50 years. The second anniversary occurred 3 years earlier in 1970 in the backyard of a house we rented on Lake Austin, which was really just a wide place in the Colorado River, but it's very beautiful. And we got married.
This is a candle. It has joy and sorrow, but I just wanted, if you don't know, the McLeods are having some real physical issues. Richard is having a really hard time walking. They aren't quite sure what the issue is, and Linda's blood pressure is really up high. So they are both working hard at figuring out how to get themselves back on even keel. So if you could keep them in your thoughts.
And we have a couple of joys. One is the progress toward the Fall Festival on October 7th that we've been working quite hard on and are very excited about. But also yesterday, actually, was our
30th anniversary.
This is a candle of concern for a friend, former student, and was a member here for a while, Charles Page. We helped Charles get a kidney about 8 years ago now, and he had some bad blood work, and so this coming Friday, I have to take him in to have it biopsied. So keep him in your thoughts. He's anxious.
Good morning. I have 2 joys to share. One, my father, who had a double bypass 3 weeks ago, came home from the hospital almost 2 weeks ago. He's doing good. He's got a hard road ahead, but the outlook looks good. And then on the same note, my dad has next Friday will be his 83rd birthday. So shout out to my dad.
Good morning. I have the opportunity to light a candle in gratitude and appreciation. 3.5 years ago, all of us faced what we all know now as that pandemic. It shut us down, but thanks to the work of our tech services group, it didn't slow us down. The work that they've done over the past 3.5 years to keep this community together is incredible. Think about that past 3.5 years when we brought in the All Souls Waccamaw congregation of Myrtle Beach, who would come and be a part of our services because they knew we were a community that welcomed. Think of the folks, your family members, who've joined and listened in on services thanks to the work of our Technical Services Committee. Can't help but think of folks like Susan Robinson, who in Portland is able to continue to be a part of our congregation thanks to the work of our services, our technological services. My sister in Vancouver, Washington, who joins us every Sunday and finds a way to text me in the middle of a service to say she's watching and to watch this particular comment. David, Paul, the rest of the many members who have made this technical services, we owe a great amount of abundance of care and appreciation and thanks to you. So that's what this candle is about, but it's also a way to say they need some help. If you know of anyone who's willing to go ahead and provide some time to make that connection, to be able to make sure that Linda and Richard, in their time of need, can sit and watch this service and be a part of us, even though they're not here physically. So please, let David know that you're there to help. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Our last candle that we light today is for those silent joys and silent concerns. Please join me as we remember all that we've heard and connect to all those feelings and experiences and things that have been shared. Thank you. As we prepare for our offering this morning, a reminder that our Share the Plate recipient this month is the Hancock Center, and we are so delighted that Mark, who has already introduced himself, has come to share a little bit about that work. So Mark, please do so.
Good morning, everybody. I had a whole speech prepared earlier today, but I left that at home, so I got my trusted notes, all right? So I'm here for Share the Plate for the Harriet Hancock Center. My name is Mark Flournoy. I'm on the board. We have several board members out here in the community. I thought I would see at least one or two here, but it's just me today, all right? I'm also coming from work, and I have to go back to work right after this. But I'm happy to be here. This is a gem in this community. I've passed by here so many times, but never even thought to look at what you guys do or hear you guys. You understand? But I do like it. I love the music. Kudos to the music. It is very powerful. All right, but now back to Harriet Hancock. Okay, all right. So Harriet Hancock Center, it's on 1108 Woodrow Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 29205. So we're not that far from you guys. So anytime you guys want to just hop on in, please just hop on in. Our phone number is, if you guys want to write it down, 803-771-7713. Doesn't matter who you speak to. It's just like here where you can just speak to anybody. We're out here in the community. We definitely care about the youth. We have programs like Youth Out Loud. And we see what goes on in the community, in different communities, and on a national level, what happens. But sometimes it takes the grassroots to help make change and to protect our youth from others and also from themselves. So we definitely have a great program for the youth and a lot of resources also. I cannot read my handwriting. Okay, I got this. All right, so some of the programs we have are Career Collective, Youth Out Loud. We also have a book club out there too. We have a small little library. I'm not a fan of, I'm not a fan of reading so much, but we do have a library, so if you like to read, come out anytime you want. Resources, we do have a lot of resources, not in the center itself, but we point you in the right direction. For those that are going through illness or transitioning, or sometimes if they're looking for a community or a service like this, we'll point them your direction too. So we all help each other out. And you'll see our social media. We're on Instagram. For the younger people, I guess, they like to go on Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. Me, I just say, go to the center and come see us, because we are out there in the community fighting for LGBTQ rights for older and the younger generation. All right, so I know I have 3 minutes. Is my 3 minutes up? I'm a gabber, so all right. But I do thank you guys for allowing me to come up here and speak to you guys. So if anytime you guys want, just come out there, help support us. We'll help support you, because we all definitely have to support each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark, for sharing, and we look forward as starting to hear about the Pride Parade coming up in October and being a part of that event, and tend to be right alongside the Hancock Center in all of those activities. As we prepare for our offering this morning, just to remind you that our offertory that is in the program is One Starry Night by Rod Brown, and as we prepare that to be played, I invite our ushers to come and receive our morning offering. Today is, as we have heard in our service and seen in descriptions, begins a recognition of time in the Jewish community called Yom Kippur. Actually begins at evening, this evening. It is celebrated on the 10th day of the lunar month of Tishrei, and that day commemorates the event of Moses, who received the law from Yahweh, coming down from the mountain and seeing an experience of what he didn't think was appropriate, and then breaking the tablets that had just been created. Unfortunately for Moses, as is recorded in the Old Testament, he did not purchase the insurance on the tablet. And because of his act of intentionally breaking them, the warranty was voided as well. So he had to return back up the mountain. And at that point, instead of having these created for him. The text says that he had to create them himself. So a little bit different act. The act of going up and receiving the law again, which became the central foundation of the Jewish community. The act of going back up to receive it again after having it broken is entitled an act of atonement, to see if you can climb the mountain and receive the law again and experience forgiveness again and again, even though we obviously get into times of wrong with ourselves. And the day that has become established in Jewish spirituality and community is the Day of Atonement, which is what the words Yom Kippur stands for. It becomes on the 10th day of the new year. So 10 days ago, Rosh Hashanah was celebrated as the beginning of this Jewish New Year. And I think from my perspective, I was just thinking about this as we are planning our service for the blessing of animals next Sunday, and we plan it in October because why do we do it in October? We hope it will be cool outside, right? Good chance it won't be. Same reason we do the Pride Parade, and how many times have we been dehydrated walking in the Pride Parade in October? It makes me wonder, maybe we should move to more of a recognition of the lunar calendar as the Jewish community does, instead of being fixed in stone on these dates that we have and not paying attention to nature and the seasons. But the Day of Atonement comes, and it is first of all, a fast that is ended by a feast. And during the fast, you have opportunities to reconcile yourself, to go to others who have been wronged by you, or to experience others coming to you who have wronged you, and to ask for forgiveness, and to do the hard work of reviewing your life over the past year and thinking about those places where you have stumbled and make mistakes and make restitutions. It's a beautiful act of fasting to make sure that all of your attention is drawn to that act of reviewing. And then when the work is done, then the feast of community brings us all back together, and a plan for a new year of, basically wronging each other over and over again for another year. And in this process, 3 types of forgiveness are practiced in Jewish spirituality. In rabbinic thought, usually only the offending party can set the wrong aright, and only the offended party can forgo the debt of sin. So that means that if I offend someone, it is my responsibility to do whatever it takes to set matters aright. And conversely, if I've offended someone, it's my job to go to them and do the act of trying to set things right. It's called the act of machila, which is the act of coming to the conclusion that this matter in our minds has been settled between us. You acknowledge your act toward me, I acknowledge that you were wrong, I offer forgiveness, and that you no longer owe me anything in that act of hurt and pain that you caused. So it's really an act of the mind, where the second act of forgiveness is the act of the heart, called the selisha. It is reaching a deeper understanding of the sinner, achieving an empathy for the troubledness of the other. It's not a reconciliation or an embracing of the offender. It's just simply reaching the conclusion that the person that offended you is a human being, that they're frail, and that they are deserving of empathy and sympathy. It's more closely aligned to an act of mercy than an act of grace. And then the third type of atonement comes outside of our human relationships. For the Jewish community, God is the one who gives atonement and thus wipes away the sin. It's an existential cleansing. Now, I share that to invite us to, as we often do, think about other religions and their ceremonies and their rituals, so that we can be offensive to Barry with another ritual. I'm just kidding, Barry. Barry's like, I'm leaving now. I share this, though, as we often think about what's going on in other religions and this time of year, and particularly with Yom Kippur, to think about the acts of forgiveness, of asking for forgiveness and receiving forgiveness. But I do recognize that as a UU community who is grounded in love and celebration of peace, that we never do anything to offend each other. So this is just more of an act of recognizing what other people do, right? We don't really need this work ourselves because we don't offend each other. That's cosmic laughter that comes when you say that. When the truth is that we actually walk around all the time carrying the burdens of pain and guilt and resentment in our lives, and maybe even more so in this place. We need to practice the art of asking for forgiveness and offering forgiveness because we do believe that we are welcoming each other into authentic relationship. And authentic relationships means that you don't just say, it's fine. You say, yes, I was offended. Or you go and say, yes, I know I hurt you. And you do the hard work of forgiveness. John O'Donohue, in his book, Eternal Echoes, writes this about forgiveness. That forgiveness is one of the really difficult things in life. The logic of receiving hurt seems to run in the direction of never forgetting either the hurt or the hurter. When you forgive some deeper, divine generosity takes over. When you can forgive, then you are free. When you cannot forgive, you are a prisoner of the hurt that's been done to you. If you're really disappointed in someone and you become embittered, you become incarcerated inside that feeling. And only the grace of forgiveness can break the straight logic of hurt and embitterment. It gives you a way out because it places the conflict on a completely different level. In a strange way, it keeps the whole conflict human in nature. You begin to see and understand the conditions, the circumstances, or the weaknesses that made the other person act as they did. Donahue describing beautifully the acts of the three arts of forgiveness in the Jewish spirituality practice of Yom Kippur. We live our lives every day holding deep anger and resentment, starting with ourselves. Some clinicians identify depression as anger that's directed at self or anger turned inward. We hold that anger and that resentment toward ourselves, walking around with it for mistakes that we've made, relationships that are broken, decisions that have impacted our lives or someone else's life adversely. And because we don't deal with it, it just simply turns inward. And maybe we grow up in a family system that says you cannot express your anger and your anger is not blessed to be shared out loud. It's something that you keep to yourself. And when we do that, it just has no place to go. I don't know if you've ever allowed yourself to fully be aware of your anger, but you feel it in your body, right? For me, if I'm angry and I'm finally letting it out, I can feel it pulsing in my spine. All the time, I feel that just pulse there, that energy caught right in that spot. For others, we cry when we're angry. Our body just says the tears have got to come. We shake. We feel so much energy in those moments of anger when we have been hurt. And if you take all that energy and you turn it in on itself, what else can happen but high blood pressure and depression and pain that we cause on ourselves? So much of our anger and our guilt toward ourselves is irrational. And most of it lacks a realistic expectation of ourselves. We hold ourselves to a higher standard than we do everyone else, and therefore judge ourselves. And it's easier to just blame me in the mirror than to do the hard work of being in relationship with others. So imagine if we practice those two forms of forgiveness with ourselves. To practice looking in the mirror and taking an honest look at what we see and not offering just, you're okay, but offering empathy and understanding, maybe even questioning, why, Stephen, did you do that? I do that all the time. Sometimes in the morning, just looking in the mirror. Why did you say that? Why did you do that? And my family would say, who are you talking to? Like, me. I'm talking to me. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then moving to empathy. What is going on? Why are you hurting? Can I understand what's going on deep inside? And to acknowledge that we are human, that we are frail, and that we often make decisions out of fear or a lack of understanding. We say things all the time out of hurt and pain, and acknowledge that we have been wounded ourselves. I'm not talking about completely excusing those feelings or making excuses for wrongdoing. I'm just talking about offering understanding to ourselves and acknowledging that we are human and susceptible to being hurt and speaking and acting out of that hurt. To practice Mashila with ourselves would involve an understanding that we have acknowledged the errors of our ways, and now we're choosing to act differently, to relieve ourselves of the debt that we are carrying, and to allow that existential act of atonement and forgiveness, whether we believe it comes from God or some force elsewhere or from deep inside ourselves as human beings, to allow that existential experience of atonement to wash over us and experience healing and forgive ourselves. I hope I don't give this away. I don't feel responsible for a movie that's over 20 years old. If I give you the plot line and you go, I was gonna watch that. Well, you had 20 years to watch it, so I'm just gonna share it. But one of the greatest experiences of this existential experience of atonement, of self-forgiveness for me, that I've ever watched in film is in the movie Good Will Hunting, where a boy named Will Hunting has been abused most of his life and acts out of that and constantly is creating bad experiences in relationships and doing things that are hurtful and harmful to others, even people that he cares about. And in a therapeutic moment with a therapist that is played by Robin Williams, an act of just simply repeating over and over again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. First, the fight in Will. Don't say that. I know it's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Then you see the, don't mess with me. Don't confuse me. Don't trick me. To ultimately the breaking of the dam, of the actual realization, not in just your head, but in your heart, that it's not your fault. And existential healing and atonement comes, the act of forgiveness. And as Maya Angelou says, if you can't forgive yourself and do that experience of atonement for yourself, you definitely can't offer that to anyone else. So forgiveness of ourselves is so key and so important, but it's only a part of the journey. We know that we are holding broken places in many of the relationships in our lives today. We sit here today knowing that we are holding anger and resentment toward people in our lives, our families, our friends, and others, people that we have hurt or people that have hurt us. We also know that people in our lives are holding those feelings intently toward us, and we don't know what to do with them. And so many of these stories are complicated, and I don't mean to simplify them. I know they are complicated, and sometimes forgiveness can seem to just undermine justice. But the beauty of the third type of forgiveness, the atonement, is recognizing that it doesn't come from us. It comes from somewhere else. Whether it's a deity or the universe or something deep beyond ourselves, we are not responsible for offering atonement. We are responsible for doing the work and doing the healthy acts of asking for forgiveness and offering forgiveness. And the truth is that we sit here today in this beloved community of the UUCC, and we have broken relationships and our broken places in our relationships with each other. Now, I, as the minister, don't see that, meaning that there's something wrong with the UUCC. For we are a group of beings, human beings, who have formed this community. And we're a group of human beings who do the hard work of speaking truth, being in authentic relationship, risk knowing and being known, advocating, disagreeing, dialoguing, and debating. Of course, we offend each other. We are not the type of people that say, hey, how are you doing? And we just respond, I'm fine. That's not how it works here. How are you doing? Well, pull up a chair and I'll tell you how I'm doing. And you leave the conversation going, why did I ask to begin with? But that's who we are. We're not inviting ourselves to waste our time in this space by being in pseudo community. We want something more authentic, more real in our lives. And doing that means that we risk stepping on each other's toes and hurting each other all the time. I wish that we could just learn to celebrate that that's the way it is here. It just happens. It's who we are. And not just stay with celebration, but do the hard work of reconciling when it happens. That's what it means to be in covenant community with each other, that we do the hard work of asking for forgiveness, of seeking out when we've wronged or been wronged and make that known. We let them know. What makes us healthy and strong in remembering that we practice covenant community is to practice the Mashila and the Salisha. When we know we have offended someone, we go to them. We make reconciliation. When someone has offended us, we don't hold that with resentment alone. We let them know, you offended me. That's what it means to be in covenant community. And when these attempts at reconciliation are made, we practice the art of empathy with each other. We recognize that we are human beings together, and this is great. I don't know if you remember the sermon I did not too long ago where we talked about humus. Do you remember that? I know John will remember it. Humus being the stuff that grows or decomposing plant life that basically gives life to everything. This is just great. Sometimes I just love typos. Instead of it saying on my text here, we recognize that we are humans together, it says we recognize that we are humus together. We are just a decomposing pile of beep. Wow. Of course we're offensive to each other, right? Wow, what a way to see ourselves, though. Maybe that wasn't a typo. But man, when we allow ourselves to sit in that pit together and be humans, authentic humans with each other, to take the risk of saying this has offended me, or take the risk of saying I think I believe I offended you, and do the work of empathy and understanding and forgiveness. When we do that, we offer the opportunity to be heard and understood together. And here in our community, we also recognize that that work is hard sometimes. It's hard to go to someone. It's hard to sit and anticipate that conversation. All of these emotions are painful, and the board is working really hard to make sure that we have all the resources that you need to facilitate those conversations. It's your job to create the conversation, but we want to make sure that you have your support to do so. And if you ever find yourself overwhelmed with what lies ahead of you as far as asking for forgiveness or offering forgiveness and working on reconciliation, please send an email to me. I will be glad to sit and facilitate a conversation. I've been doing this job as minister for almost 5 years here, so you can imagine that I've sat and listened. I usually don't say anything. It's just like, man, this is interesting that y'all are so mad at each other. But to be able to have a safe space to talk, that is so important to this community, to do this work. And when you and I are practicing that kind of covenant relationship with each other, we are literally opening the door for existential forgiveness and atonement to rain upon us like a spring shower in April, cleansing us, healing us, giving us life, and sustaining life in this community. Now, you and I don't necessarily have a Yom Kippur as a part of our spiritual practice that invites us to do this as a community every year, but that shouldn't stop us. As UUs, we value the truth and the meaning in many diverse religions and spiritual paths. So maybe on this evening, I invite all of us to the fast and the feast of forgiveness. I also invite you to our closing hymn. If you will stand with me, hymn 123, Spirit of Life. Please remain standing for our closing words. Comes from a Buddhist nun named Pema Drone from her writings, The Places That Scare You. There is a simple practice we can do to cultivate forgiveness. First, we acknowledge what we feel, shame, revenge, embarrassment, remorse. Then we forgive ourselves for being human. And then, in the spirit of not wallowing in the pain, we let go and we make a fresh start. We don't have to carry the burden with us anymore. We will discover forgiveness as a natural expression of the open heart, an expression of our basic goodness. This potential is inherent in every moment. Each moment is an opportunity to make a fresh start. Please join me in our benediction. Well, with the homework I gave you, it should be a very interesting social hour back there. I don't know if we're so good at fasting here as you get your cookies and your tea, but you do have some work to do. So you have an announcement, Mary?
I just wanted to make sure that people knew that there was a visitor orientation at 12:30.
All right, visitor orientation at 12:30. Thank you all for being a part of this service.